Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome again to Techno Crime Fighters Forum. I'm very pleased this morning to be here with Dr. Catherine Horton and with NSA whistleblower Karen Stewart. Dr. Millicent Black may not be able to join us this morning, and I actually have to run out in a few minutes. So I just want to give you all a very brief update before I vanish. My daughter is on winter break, and I have to take her out this morning for a couple hours. I'll try to listen in, though I might just join in later on again. But okay, so just to introduce what we are doing here and to establish to the world who we are and what we are doing, just to represent my usual spiel, we're here to have a public conversation about the surveillance state, about the extraordinary assault with electromagnetic weapons that civilians all over the world are currently being pummeled with, and to have an open and public conversation about things like covert implantation, clandestine gang stalking, organized stalking, COINTELPRO, etc., which has been dismissed in mainstream media as delusional and products of mass delusion, but which pretty much everybody with some education in this world knows is actually going on and is currently happening. We do happen to be educated, as are a large majority of the targeted population, and we are here to inform the world that these things are indeed going on. So on that note, I guess we want to just start with a little bit of news. So Catherine, shall I just go ahead then and give my news for the week? Okay. All right, so my news for the week is, I've been massively hacked and sabotaged the last couple of weeks. My laptop was crashed 2 weeks ago. And then last week, the PC that I was using, my daughter's desktop, was incessantly hacked and sabotaged, even as I was striving to do some podcasts. So unfortunately, the podcast that I did, the audio in particular, has been sabotaged. I want to draw attention to this fabulous conversation I had with Stephen Shellen, Canadian actor. Everybody knows who Stephen Shellen is, and I was so looking forward to our conversation because we'd been trying to set it up for weeks. And then when we ultimately had our interview, his audio was incredibly sabotaged. So my computer was frozen during the conversation. Nothing seemed to work right, and the audio was not recorded at my other server, the video conferencing server, the GoToMeeting server that I usually rely on. So all of this stuff happened. So what I tried to do was retrieve the file and try to make the best of it. And I used audio amplifiers and stuff and tried to amplify the audio track. And I've posted it online so people can access it and listen to the interview. I have to apologize for the quality of the audio, but do listen to the conversation. The quality of the conversation is incredible because Stephen is an extraordinary person, and the power of his presence and the power of his voice, I think, certainly comes through. And after that conversation, Stephen and I have talked a little bit, and we hope to continue doing some kind of podcast, some ideas, and hopefully, we'll keep revealing them as we try to bring them to fruition. So that's Stephen Shellen's podcast. And then on Sunday, I did an interviews with Changemakers conversation with Dr. Stuart Swerdlow and Janet Moria Swerdlow. And a very fascinating conversation because they are clairvoyants and psychics, and they are running this wonderful media organization called Expansions. They do a news podcast regularly, and they also have healing webinars and seminars, workshops, and retreats. And they're all about teaching people to access their inner self and self-empower. So it was a fascinating conversation, and I encourage everyone to listen to that and to check out their website.com. Then last night, and this was really great, I managed to work with a tech support crew that I currently have. Thanks to everybody's donations, I'm continuing to keep this tech support crew ongoing. And they fixed my computer just before my podcast, so this one was not frozen. I talked with Suzanne Marr of ByeByeBlueSky.com and Tony Panteloresco of AugmentInforce.com. We talked about nanotechnology, about chemtrails, and about all the nano stuff that's being, rained down on us and is entering our human bodies and messing with our biology big time and changing, in fact, actually affecting DNA. So that was a really interesting conversation, and I'm still in the process of, checking the audio and doing a little write-up, and haven't posted it. Hope to post it online a little bit later today, because one of the great things that they get across, that they are doing and that they're getting across to the rest of us, is everybody, all of humanity is being targeted. And we're all being assaulted with this nano stuff, the synthetic biology that's raining down on us, nanotechnology. Literally, when you hear about what exactly is raining down on us, everybody is going to start waking up in a big, big way, I think, just listening to them. And then there is a secondary attack with the radiation, microwave radiation. So they foresee that it's all going to get worse with 5G. So even as of now, we're all being bombarded, as we know, with EMFs. So the EMFs, in conjunction with nanotech, and in conjunction also with the GMO assault that we are facing, with the pesticides that we are taking in with the GMOs, all of this sort of works in a threefold kind of way, is what Suzanne explained. So their conversation is going to be vastly interesting for everyone to hear, I think. And I promise to have that podcast on soon, very soon. So that's all from my end. I'm going to turn the floor back to Catherine and Karen. My daughter is kind of hovering at the door, so I probably should be taking off. So thanks, everyone.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'll let you go, Ramona. Thank you so much for doing the introduction. So I see you next week, Ramona. I also have a couple of news. So this episode is really the campaign episode, and lots of things are happening because in 2018 we are now moving to dismantle this organized crime cartel. And a couple of things I would like to announce is how these are petitions where you can take part and actually help us stop this crime. So let me just bring up the sites. In fact, if you go to it should be already in the description, actually, if I've done it right. So let me share my screen and show you. This is the video that you can all see, right? And if you go into the description, there are two campaigns, two petitions in here in the description down here. And I ask you to actually sign them if you support them. One of them is Karen's petition here. So you can click your way through, and this is the campaign to take people off the fraudulent blacklist. And you can, there used to be a petition on the White House site that was closed because we couldn't make the signatures in time. But I want to keep this campaign open because this goes to the heart. These fraudulent blacklists and these fraudulent enemies lists are actually the keystone in how the organized crime cartel is taking out and harassing and mutilating and killing honest citizens. So I ask you to sign this petition here if you agree with the petition. And then also Millicent Black, Dr. Millicent Black petition is also very important one. She's campaigning to stop the false diagnoses that lead to forced psychiatric detainment. And in actual fact, these psychiatric detainments are in many cases used to cover illegal human experimentation and military training. And she knows all about that because the Air Force veteran Randall Webster has been using her and her body to train up what I would call death squads. So these are people trained in the use of directed energy weapons on people. They are trained in using, I think, the communications and even satellite systems to assault people everywhere. And this is a form of illegal military operation on American soil, but they are real life victims like Dr. Millicent Black. So, but we are dismantling this crime cartel by chipping away at its ingredients. And one of the ingredients is basically the fraudulent psychiatric detainment and fraudulent psychiatric diagnoses. So you can already support us by signing these. And what I also did is I expanded. I don't think I finished the the editing in time. But what you'll also find is under the list of each member of Techno Forum, sorry, I forgot to put up Karen's link yet, but there are links to donate. So you can donate to Ramola, you can donate to Melanie Richan, and donate to Millicent. And sorry, I was just editing it before the show and I didn't finish in time. But there's also a link if you go to, sorry, my website at Stop 007. Sorry, this isn't it. Sorry, I have to bring it up. So at Stop 007, I have a section called Support Our Fighters. And there you can donate to every member of Techno Forum. And I think in 2018, I would like to put out calls for funding because really the donations make a big difference. I received a lot of donations, which is the only reason I could afford all these measuring devices. And it's basically through these donations that we can fund our campaigns. And all of us have court cases to launch here in 2018, which will be used to then support other victim cases. So please help us, and please consider this an investment in our future. But even if you don't have the money to donate, you can do an awful lot by signing petitions and also by writing letters. And in as regards the letter writing campaign, one of the things I would like to start today, and the actual email list will be up later as soon as I've got it ready. But I've got so the biggest campaign that I would like to start today, that is extremely important, is actually a campaign for Dr. Millicent Black. And the situation is that Millicent has been mutilated and tortured with directed energy weapons for since the end of the 90s, I think, so for almost 20 years. However, now she really needs our help because she is in recovery after she underwent surgery, and she continues to be assaulted. She's extremely vulnerable right now, and the perpetrators, that is a Randall Webster Air Force veteran with SEER torture training, he continues to mutilate her nonstop. So basically, what I asked Millicent what we could do, and she said that she has a list of officials whom she has contacted about her case, and she urgently needs our support. So I think we can help her by writing to these officials and asking that they basically stop her torture. And these are all officials who have a statutory duty to help her. So let me just show you the list. I will just flash up the list as it appears now. It will be up on my website by the end of the show. But just so that you know what to look for, there will be a PDF which will look like this. So this is the campaign to save Dr. Millicent Black. And we ask you to write emails and please print them out and, keep them for reference because these are official documents, basically. And also you can look up the correspondence address of these people and also write letters. Either way, it is an official document, even if you send an email. So Millicent has put together this list of emails, and one of them is Tim Potts, the chief of police in Colombia, who, by the way, refuses to assist Millicent and refuses to arrest Randall Webster or call him in for questioning. And then there's the captain of police, also called Potts, and he's also the leader of the detectives in the Colombia Police Department. Then there's the city manager, Massey, in Colombia, and he told the police chief that in actually Dr. Black's hearing that it's racketeering. So we're dealing with racketeering here, so it's human trafficking and racketeering. Millicent also would like us to write to the vice mayor here, to the governor-elect, that's Representative Diane Black. And Diane Black also has a correspondence address, phone and fax here. Then there is Senator Brian Kelsey and also the Tennessee Attorney General. So these are the people we should contact about Dr. Black. She already had a temporary, restriction order against Randall Webster. But she was sabotaged and she was mutilated horrifically during and after her court case. And basically, she still needs to pursue it further and take it to court again, because this guy doesn't stop. But in the meantime, all of these people who are listed here have a statutory duty to act in the case of crimes against humanity, especially the police. I also think that we should add the FBI in Memphis and in Tennessee to this list. So I have personally contacted Captain Potts, Chief Potts, and both FBI Memphis and FBI, FBI Memphis and FBI Nashville. So these two officers, and both of them refused to act. So, however, now we know that these crimes are happening. These guys cannot hide behind claims of not knowing or these weapons not existing. So I ask you to write to these people, to put them under pressure, to show them that this is a really big issue, that Millicent's case is widely known. But I also ask you to keep the letters, because in the upcoming court cases, we can basically prove that these individuals in particular have personally refused to assist Millicent. And that means that they are personally liable to, possibly charges of conspiracy to torture a human being. I also would like to ask you to put Millicent in copy. So her email is listed here, so that she also sees how much support she's getting and that she can document it for her own court case as well. So what I will do now is I will put this PDF up on my website. It will just take me a few minutes, and during this time I will pass it to Karen so that she can give us an update about her situation. But I really, really ask you to join this campaign, to start writing emails. And you are also very welcome to add in your personal experience of your targeting and draw attention to that as well. This is a sort of Me Too, action where you can voice what happened to you as well. And as always, these emails become official documents. So please make a backup, print them off as PDF. And if you start court cases as well, you can put that into your court case as well. So another thing, there are two more things I would like to announce, two really big campaigns. And one very, very important campaign that is happening in the UK is Jeff Godwin's protests that are happening. One happened on the 7th of February. There will be another protest on the 7th of March. And when I have a few minutes during the show, I will also upload the new campaign poster that Jeff has made. So in the meantime, let me just share my screen and show you what it looks like. So for the protest, so for the protest, Jeff made this poster here. So here it says intelligence agencies are torturing people. We need to stop this. The next demo will be Wednesday, 7th of March, and they meet outside Parliament at 12 p.m., so midday. And the other information here on the poster is that Home Office schemes such as Prevent are being used as cover by security services to target activists and whistleblowers. Private contractors working with security services and police are getting rich carrying out state-mandated torture. I completely agree with every single aspect of this. So the Prevent scheme is to prevent young people from being radicalized. However, what this scheme doesn't take into account is that, well, as far as I can make out, and as many people have pointed out and debunked a long time ago, the terrorist attacks are being carried out by the security services themselves. They are so-called false flags or staged events. So there's absolutely no point in having a Prevent scheme targeted at, young Muslim boys and girls in the UK, when really the Prevent scheme should be targeted at the head of MI5, Andrew Parker. So really, we need a Prevent scheme for MI5. That's the upshot here. But all the money that's funneled into Prevent is being used for various dubious schemes. And also this entire saga, the anti-Muslim saga, is actually a massive cover-up for horrific crimes against humanity being perpetrated again by the security services. And I also would like to, now that we're talking about the UK, I would like to point out that the security services have also been implicated in covert assassinations in Ireland, you know, in Northern Ireland. So I would be, you know, I would invite absolutely everybody to start digging around in what MI6 and MI5 have gotten up to. And also, by the way, the German and Swiss intelligence agencies, just the same. But the poster also points out that the majority of those targeted are women. And this is backed up by Dr. John Hall, who did the survey in the US. And he says that 70 to 80% of the victims of this electromagnetic torture are actually women. And I personally think that's because they are also being sex trafficked. You know, there are miscellaneous business schemes, as far as I can tell, associated with the victims. Okay, but this is also important because there's a brief list of all the things that are being done to victims. So, for example, color sensitization. That's when you're, for example, honked at by, say, yellow cars all the time, or, you know, fire trucks or whatever. So sensitizing people to certain signal colors is being done. Electronic harassment, although I would call this microwave mutilation. There's noise disruption, organized stalking, home invasions, and directed energy weapon attacks. So also at the bottom here, there is a contact phone number, I think. This is a UK mobile phone number. So if you've got questions and you're outside the UK, you have to dial 0044 and then 7505 and so on. Okay, so this campaign poster will be up on my website in a few minutes. And then you can download it and distribute this as well. So this is the campaign for the UK. And then the last really big campaign that I would like to also launch today is has got something to do with the case of Siegfried Tomys in Switzerland. And I've just spoken to Siegfried Tomys yesterday, and what he told me just blew my mind. It was about the court case and how the court case actually went down. And after I had a day of night of sleep deprivation to think about this, today I realized that we need to start a campaign, because what has happened in the case of Siegfried Tomys in the court case is undermining Swiss justice, and it's symptomatic. And the very same thing is happening in the judiciary around the world as soon as the intelligence agencies are involved. Now, the situation is the following. Yesterday, when I spoke to Siegfried Tomys on the telephone, he mentioned a few facts about his court case that I wasn't aware of. So on the day of the court case, the 1st of February, I actually traveled to Biel, to the courthouse. And I thought I can take part and actually listen to the court case as a member of the public. However, I was barred from entering. And the lawyer of Siegfried Tomys told me that that's because I might appear as an expert witness because of my work in international cases very similar to Siegfried Tomys. Now, not knowing very much about Swiss justice at this point, I agreed. I was fine with that. But what I didn't know, and I only found out later after the court case, is that all members of the public were barred from entering the courtroom. So this was a court case or hearing that took place with complete exclusion of the public. Now, that's already extremely dangerous in my view, because basically, the two lawyers and the judge, who I think are all members of the Bar Association, can do whatever they like. And especially given that the Bar Association is more and more coming into the limelight as perhaps one big fat conspiracy, potentially still under investigation. I think this is very worrying, but it is a fundamental legal principle that court cases should be open to members of the public. Now, this has not happened. And Siegfried Tomys told me that this is the very first time he attended, or, he had many court cases, but this is the first time that the public was excluded. So that's already worrying. But then this I knew on the day. However, what I found out yesterday that I wasn't aware of is that Siegfried Tomys and his lawyer went and appeared before the judge. However, the other party were not there. So Siegfried Tomys and his lawyer, after speaking to the judge, were sent out of the room. And then the other party went in with their lawyer. And that's how it went down. So, oh, Romola, you're back.
I'm driving.
Okay. Can I mute your microphone and then
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, and then you can, the traffic noise will not disturb us, but I'm glad you joined us again. So I'm just talking about the court case of Siegfried Tomys and all the shady business that went down there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the really shocking aspect is that this was not a normal court case. So the two parties did not appear at the same time before the judge. So this is incredible. And this is extremely dangerous because basically what this allows is that the judge can do cow trading with the parties, right? So you don't know what the judge says to the other party and what sort of agreements and arrangements they are making. Now, this is extremely worrying. And this sort of odd, talking to the judge when other people are not there. By the way, I've also observed in the UK case of Philip Kerr versus MI5. There, I was a member of the public and the court observer. And what happened is that after the court case where Philip Kerr appeared before the judge, so it was 3 judges representing the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. This is a specialist secretive court set up to deal specifically with cases to do with the intelligence agencies, okay? And what happened is that the court case, went down. And at the end of the court case, the judge, the lead judge, said to the barrister of the intelligence agencies, I think it was actually Miss Aaron. So, Miss Aaron, can I just talk to you? So, Miss Aaron, imagine this. Miss Aaron went from, the actual courtroom, crossed the barrier, went into the office of the judges, and was speaking to them for at least half an hour or more. Now, this I thought was so out of order that when I came out, I wrote a complaint letter to the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, and I wrote a letter to Private Eye, because back in the day, I didn't know that Private Eye doesn't report about Secret Service crimes. But anyway, I was deluded back in the day. So, and these letters exist. But at that time, I thought this is absolutely unacceptable that you have still, within the hearing, you have one of the barristers going and having a private chat with the judge or the judges. So imagine now the entire court case of Siegfried Tomys was set up that this was already inherent to the hearing. And this is absolutely unacceptable. So basically what I'm asking, so I shall be writing, now that I got to know that this is what happened, I will be writing a complaint letter to the court in Biel. And also I will be saying that I fear that because Siegfried Tomys is a victim of the Swiss intelligence agencies, in my view, I fear that the Swiss judiciary has been put under pressure by the Swiss intelligence agencies. And I want to turn this into a big campaign, basically. And if you are concerned about these matters, perhaps you can join me in writing to the court and asking if, A, this is a novel procedure that they have introduced, and from now on, parties will be speaking to the judge separately, or if this is a procedure they have specifically introduced just for the case of Siegfried Tomys, in which case it's even more worrying, because it means that the judiciary has double standards. So certain people get a different treatment to others. So I find this extremely shocking, and I ask you to join the campaign. I just have to spend a few minutes to dig out the actual correspondence address of the court, which I have here. And I will be publishing it as part of Techno. But these are basically the campaigns from me. If you agree that we should act, then please join me and write letters for this. Okay, so I need a few more minutes to actually sort out the and upload all these things. So I will just ask maybe Karen to report what she's been up to, and in the meantime I'll upload the stuff to my website.
Okay.
Sorry, Karen, I maybe your microphone, hang on.
No, it's on. It's on.
Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. As you guys know, when the Nunez memo came out, I left a message with 3 congressmen who had shown outrage about the memo, and they wanted it to be released, which it was. And I ended up telling 2 of them, getting emails for 2 of them, and giving them a lot of information, telling them who I was and what I was experiencing and what everyone was experiencing. My main message was the illegal FISA and surveillance abuse against President Trump is the tip of the iceberg. If you want to know what's really going on, you need to go down into the population and listen to us. So I gave them a lot of information. And then I asked several people to write short 1-page letters to them in support of what I was telling them. Basically, they said, in support of what Karen Stewart, NSA whistleblower, is telling you, I am a citizen of the United States. I have no criminal record, yet I am being not only surveilled, but I'm being harassed viciously. And basically, war-grade weapons are being used on me in regard to electronic harassment. So they did that, and I do thank those people very much. But what I'd like to do now is ask the TI community in general, anybody who actually lives in Ohio, please do write to Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, and tell him pretty much the same thing. Anybody who lives in Florida, do please write to Congressman Matt Gaetz and tell him the same thing. And anybody who lives in North Carolina, write to Mark Meadows, Congressman Mark Meadows, and tell him exactly the same thing, that you live in North Carolina, you're a constituent, and this is happening to you. And do use the terms FISA abuse and surveillance abuse. And then we'll get a follow-on of, I hope, a lot of people to tell these people it wasn't just Karen Stewart and 5 or 6 people. So we need you to add in if you so desire. Okay, another thing that's going on, I wanted to commend Helen, and I have not spoken with her, but so I'm not going to use her last name. But Helen had the brilliant idea of going to Craigslist in her area and writing up something, which I'll read to you. But I'm going to get Helen's permission to see if we can send it out to give people an idea as to what to do in your area in regard to Craigslist. And she basically starts out, are you experiencing symptoms as U.S. Embassy personnel in Cuba? And sorry about, I have to read closer. Are you experiencing symptoms as U.S. and Canadian Embassy personnel in Cuba, should say, did? These devices are microwave radio wave MWRF directed energy devices that the FCC officially calls radio locators and intentional radiators. The devices are also known as TTWS, through the wall surveillance devices. To give you an idea of some of the unclassified microwave radio frequency TTWS through the wall sensor, radio locator, and intentional radiator devices, the Mantech reports are below. Prepared for the DOJ, NIJ, Sensor Surveillance and Biometric Technology Center of Excellence, COE, through the wall sensors for law enforcement, market survey 2012, and then she gives a link. Through the wall sensors, TTWS for law enforcement test and evaluation version 1.2 from 2014, she gives a link. TTWS for law enforcement use case scenarios version 1.3 2014, she gives a link. On page 26 of the 2012 market survey report, prepared by Mantech for the DOJ and NIJ, is the most capable TTWS radar device that I'm aware of, called STORMS, capital STORMS, Sense Through Obstructions Remote Monitoring System. It has a 300 meter or 1,000 feet standoff range to pick up your speech, a private conversation in your living room, while sitting on your couch or talking to your spouse in your bed. Pick up breath rate, heart rate through multiple walls, available as a handheld model since Q2, quarter 2 of 2012. The VAWD engineering fact sheet on storms, Sense Through Obstructions Remote Monitoring System, STORMS. And then she gives 2 links. These devices are intended to be used by first responders and law enforcement during catastrophic and exigent circumstances to search for the slightest of motion in an earthquake, rubble, or for search and rescue in an avalanche or during a hostage situation. The devices have been repurposed and co-opted and are being used surreptitiously to eavesdrop, surveillance, and to hurt unsuspecting citizens through their homes' walls by increasing the pulsed vibration of the MWRF energy and the cycles per second. Read Paul Broder's book, Zapping of America, Microwaves, Their Deadly Risk and the Cover-Up. And then it leaves a message saying, please contact me. I would like to form a support group and then she gives her county and the surrounding area. And underneath it does say, do not contact me with unsolicited services or offers. So she's putting in there, so people won't bother her. But I thought it was an extraordinarily brilliant idea to alert the general population to this, but also, form a support group. But in the bigger picture, it alerts everybody who looks at Craigslist to the fact that this is going on. And that's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people in your area, if you care to do so. I'm going to ask Helen if we can disseminate this page that she has written up. And then if she says yes, then you guys can contact me and I'll send it to you. I have a screenshot. Or if she wants, I'll say, give her email if she wants. But if she doesn't want to be inundated, then then you can just use the email that you guys usually use for me, which is kams56@me.com. Okay, and to move on to something else, let's see. All right, another thing, I want to thank Scott Lewis for the idea of taking August 28th, which was the day that Martin Luther King spoke in Washington, D.C., and take that day and overlap it in respect of his fight for human rights and overlap a targeted individual day of protest and information. I think that's a brilliant idea. That gives you enough time to plan protests or demonstrations in your own cities. Maybe you just want to get a group together, even if it's 2 or 3, and go to the mayor's office. Or, it depends. You could go to the Capitol steps of of the legislature or something and protest there, or just make a trip to inform people. This is a group, identify yourselves. We are a group from this county or from this state, and these are our concerns. We're here to talk to you about surveillance and FISA abuse. And so plan something in your area for August 28th, an awareness, a protest, whatever you want to do, but think about it. You've got several months now. So I just think it's an absolutely great and fabulous idea. And I thank Scott Lewis.
I don't think it's this road, right? I think it's another line. It's one more line.
Romola, you're on. Romola,
you're sorry.
Yeah, you're on.
How do I switch off my mic? Sorry, meant to.
That's all right. That's all right. So this is what I'm talking about. There are absolutely brilliant ideas coming from all of you. So do contact us. We are more than happy to promote. And I am more than happy to give thanks and credit people with the tremendous work they're doing. I was told, and I still have to investigate this, I was told that Michigan has passed a law that basically restricts what Michigan employees, federal and local, can do in order to help feds in regard to some of these extraordinarily dubious surveillance laws. But I have to investigate that further. But I will say that it may or may not be a direct or indirect result of the work that Serena Tyler has been doing around Detroit. But she is another person to be absolutely in awe of, because she has done tremendous work alerting and informing the legislature and the city councils and people like that in and around Detroit to what is going on. So, I mean, she's a one-woman powerhouse, and I do thank her and I do admire her very much. So with that being said, I don't have anything further that I'm doing right now. Well, I did write up something to give to somebody to look over. It has to do with 9/11 and the fact that the heads of NSA basically sat on 9/11 warnings, knowing that people's lives were in jeopardy and not caring. So that was not, 9/11 was not an oops, 9/11 was treason. So I have written up a statement to be used legally in regard to my own experience and repeating the conversations that I have heard inside the NSA, having to do with the fact that it was, at the least, allowed. And I fear that it's not only that it was allowed, but I don't have proof beyond that. But I have written it up for legal purposes and given the name of someone who actually told this to me and was a first-hand party at being told to shut up and not send out warnings about 9/11 plots, which was his job. And he was told to be quiet or he'd be fired. And he was fired. And then he was stalked and harassed for about a decade and kept from working any job that was commensurate with his brilliant abilities. He was a 12 to 14 language linguist. And you just don't find that. You just don't find that. So he was a tremendous loss for this country in regard to his ability to translate and understand 12 to 14 different foreign languages. But they fired him for trying to save the people who ultimately were murdered on 9/11 and stalked and harassed him for a decade to make it known to him that if he ever spoke of it, that worse things would be coming down the pike. And I have informed other NSA whistleblowers about his identity and his testimony so that that is not lost, and hoping that the more people know and keep it quiet as far as like not quite ready for public consumption. But if several of us know his identity, we hope that that keeps him safe. But he has invaluable firsthand experience and knowledge, and I've put down my secondhand knowledge and experience, hoping that that would help in this fight. So that's kind of what I've been up to. So I'll turn it back over to Catherine if she has more to say.
Yes, gosh, I'm really impressed, Karen. I'm really, really impressed, because I think what you did is exactly the right thing to do, because these people need many people to be aware about their work, and they need protection. And I think what you've done has implications, good implications, much even wider than this case, because I know for a fact that what happened at NSA, which I call the deep capture, which has allowed all this 9/11 and much, much more after that to happen, is one-to-one mirrored at what happened at MI6, at GCHQ, what happened at the German BND, all around the world. Every country that saw false flags and staged events has undergone deep capture, and exactly the same thing has happened. So in some staged events, it's questionable if even a single person died, but there are staged events and false flags where lots of people have died. And I know for a fact that what you are going through in the US Intel community is one-to-one mirrored around the world. So I think your efforts can become a template for other people to find out how to cycle out of deep capture, because I think number one is all these people who were gagged, they need to be they need to be heard now. These are crimes against humanity, and that means there's no limitation period. So even after 30, 40, 100 years, it's still topical. People can still be investigated. But number two, it's also we need to find out how to go after the people who gagged them, because they have committed high treason. And high treason has been committed in every single Western country. So, we need to find this out. And I'm actually honored, to have you on the team, because you are amazing. I mean, in the work you do and how much you take hits for what you are, you're putting yourself out there, and you're taking severe hits. And, that is just, it's so impressive, because you are guiding the way into the 21st century with this. I think the truth is that for the very first time in the 21st century, we will recapture these organizations that have never been ours. They have always been the cartels, but now we're finding a way of how to eliminate these people. And I'm just hoping that other countries are imitating you and what other NSA whistleblowers and other Intel whistleblowers are doing. So I think that the steps to take is exactly dig out all those people who knew in the day, collect their testimonies, also make them public and have these people publicly known so that the public can also protect them. And I think we have to do some work in teaching members of the public in what they can do to protect people like you, protect people like this person. I think what needs to happen is that these people need to be known, and should the smallest thing happen to them, including, this strange death of their cat, the public has to go absolutely nuts in a non-violent way, but in an administratively brutal way against the people who are in charge. I really think that we need to move that way. So, I happen to know that there are absolutely hundreds of whistleblowers just like that,
Well, Congress needs to step up and say, hey, wait a minute, there's so much about 9/11 that doesn't make any sense. We are going to put a blanket amnesty on anybody who held a secret or top secret clearance and knows anything about this. You may now come forward and not be accused of treason. And then they need to cite not only maybe an executive order or a law that was recently passed to accommodate that, but they also need to reinforce it by saying, by referring to the federal law that says you cannot merely use classification to cover up a crime. Gee, Mr. Smith, were you at your neighbor's house stealing the grill off the back deck? I'm sorry, but that's classified information. I can't tell you where I was that night because that's classified information. Well, baloney. People have got to start seeing through that. And the Congress, like I said, the watchdog that are lapdogs, I mean, they really have to get their act together because they're a joke. And so I'm hoping that these 3 congressmen that I named may want to take the power back and actually be effective instead of being a joke, So again, they need to come out and say, we want to know what people know about 9/11, and we're going to give them amnesty and bring them forward, and we're going to protect them for life, from telling us, gee, were you in this office and you started to write a report on these people plotting to do it and you were told to be quiet?
Yeah.
Really? Your branch chief said people above you have refused to allow this to be reported, so you better forget you ever saw it. We need to know that. We need to know the branch chief, and we need to know who above him or her told them to be quiet or else.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I'm calling on these congressmen to do their jobs, or they're traitors too. I'm sorry. You can be an active traitor, or you can be a passive traitor. And we need them to wake up and do their jobs. Are you in support of this country, or are you helping bringing it down?
Absolutely. And I think it's also important that we all remind ourselves of these, of the key legal principles and then just general ethical principles underpinning all this. And number one is that you cannot use classification to cover up crime. Also, I would say, I'm not a lawyer, but I would dig around in this direction, that if you sign something like the Official Secrets Act or any non-disclosure agreement or gagging order of any kind, it's almost it's a contract, right? You bind yourself not to do something. Now, when you're tied by contract to basically shut up about or silently witness or let happen, or retrospectively block the investigation of crimes against humanity, of the mass murder of your own people, of your peers, then that contract you signed becomes an unconscionable contract. No one can be tied in by just a piece of paper to condone or to just let pass the mass murder of their peers. I'm sorry, this is, it just doesn't stand up in court. And any court in which this sort of stuff does stand up needs to be burned to the ground, after evacuating the judges. But really, I'm absolutely serious that we have become, I think we as mankind and as citizens have become incredibly childlike. We just leave it to judges and we leave it to politicians and congressmen to administer justice. And we let them just run away with legal talk and, contract law and this and that. and hogtie us, but at some point we need to take back the reins and actually have a very close look at what exactly they are doing and what principles they are applying, you know. And we also need to wisen up. I mean, you are leading the charge in this, because you're the, you know, you're the expert in the team about the legal matters in the US, because you have put together all the laws that are being violated with these programs. And I think we need to, you know, dig around exactly in that sort of direction and start debunking all these vacuous claims. And I think also what we need to do as society is wake up to the fact that psychopaths do exist, that they have a different brain structure, and that they have a certain behavior that will overwhelm normal people. And one of the aspects of psychopaths that totally overwhelms normal people, and they can't comprehend nor really deal with it, is pathological lying. So psychopaths usually have no problem lying. They very often do not display the signs of lying. They're excellent liars because they don't care, you know. And I think a lot of the people in the intelligence agencies and also politicians are psychopaths. And this means that they are very happy to collude and to basically lie without end and make the most outrageous claims and be convinced that they can get away with it. And once they have a certain critical mass in all these institutions, sadly, they do get away with it, you know. And every new investigator, every new member of the public who just, you know, discovers these things, most of us who are normal have a hard time believing that so many lies can be put out there and such egregious lies can be put out, you know. But I always just remind people that this is an artifact of psychopathy, you know. It is a form of mental illness. It is certainly a mental aberration. And pathological lying is always a key ingredient. So when you see doctors who are making ludicrous claims or falsifying data, or when you see psychiatrists who are just, you know, writing all these ludicrous, you know, what's it called, confirmations of delusions and all that, and the same with police officers and judges and certainly intelligence agents, remember that you can always be dealing with a psychopath. Okay, so remember, 1 in 100 people is a psychopath. So these people are not like us, and you will have a very hard time getting your head around, you know, how they act and then what principles they are operating. But they are ruthless, utter ruthlessness, and this is what I see everywhere. I mean, there's 9/11, but there's also, for example, the fact that the so-called evidence for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq has been entirely falsified in the UK. And the actual team that signed it off or presented this to Parliament included Sir John Scarlett, head of MI6, and Sir Richard Dearlove, head of MI6. I mean, one after the other. But yeah, I think people have to think, okay, these people lied. It could be for business, you know, reasons. But also the fact that they put out such an egregious lie that since has been confirmed by, you know, also British ambassador, I think Craig Murray is his name, to be a total lie. And many MI6 whistleblowers have said that everybody in the intel community knew it to be a lie. You know, that is so egregious that I think we also have to think, hang on, are these heads of intel possibly psychopaths? In which case, you know, after they've done so much damage, they need to be put into psychiatry and permanent psychiatric confinement, you know. And I think this is where we have to go. Okay, in the meantime, I did have time to do one thing. I have now uploaded the link, the email addresses for Millicent. So please, if you go to my website, Stop 007, okay, the campaign for Siegfried Tomys will be there soon. It's not uploaded yet, but if you scroll down to support our fighters and then down to Millicent here, you will find the list. So you will find her petition here, and you will find the list of emails to send the complaints to. So please, you know, send it here. It will also go into the show notes below the YouTube video. And I also would like to draw your attention to the fact that these links, as of now, are working. I shall not be tampering with them. So if they are not working, it means that the intelligence agencies have tampered with them. Okay, so here you can find the PDF document with the list of the people to send this to. Okay, actually, another thing that I wanted to announce today, another campaign, but it's not quite finished, and I'm asking all the victims to join in. And but I also asked them to join in the preparation of this campaign. This is a campaign I would like to do this weekend, and it's the campaign to inform all the neighbors in the neighborhoods. So the reason for informing the neighbors is as follows: when you get shot at with directed energy weapons in your home, and you are being shot at through the walls, 50% or up to 50% of the radiation actually scatters, is reflected from the walls. And when it's reflected, it can go back at the attackers. But if you're shot at an angle, as is very often the case, even the slightest angle, it means that the reflections will also be at an angle. And this means they might miss the attackers and hit other neighbors nearby. So what the way to actually deal with directed energy weapons from the physical point of view is you take the victim's home, you try to identify the direction from which the attacks are coming. So north, east, west, or south, or something like that, roughly, because it's extremely hard to say what direction they're coming from. And then to look at the 480 degrees around that direction and look at all the houses that are within, basically the entire half, forward from the direction where the attacks are coming. And all the neighbors in that area are basically in an equal danger to the victim. And that's because if you shoot at a house, roughly 50% goes through and roughly 50% gets reflected. So whatever hits the victim is also the same dose that is reflected at a random neighbor. And so far, the problem is that most victims are alone. So if they are going to the police station and asking to stop, they get ignored. However, what I'm trying to say is I've now realized that victims get attacked over years and years in their home. And this means that the entire neighborhood is being irradiated and shot at with these pulsed energy projectiles for years and years. And this means that, for example, if you've got elderly people or if you've got young children in the area, they are suffering potentially serious damage to their health, and nobody knows about it because maybe the victim goes public, if that, but usually the neighbors are not informed. So my thought is that actually we all have a duty to inform our neighbors because we know about these attacks. And I think they would be very interested to know that should they develop cancer, they too might have a claim against the government. So every victim that reports these cases, these attacks, basically signals that directed energy weapons are being operated in the area. And because of this effect of the reflection of the walls, it also means that the entire area is being scattered with these shots. And it's extremely insidious because unlike ballistic shots, they cannot be heard, they cannot be seen, and they might be felt, but if it's a random scatter, people might not even identify the source of what it is. So, people can get organ damage, brain damage, damage to their sight, and so on, especially over long periods, and develop all sorts of health problems and not know where this is coming from. So, given that government is pretty much collapsed in terms of following their observing their duties in this respect, and most health authorities do not know or ignore directed energy weapons, I think it is now incumbent on the population to act. So I wanted to launch a campaign to for every victim. It's not compulsory, of course, but every victim that feels that this is a good idea, I would like to launch a campaign to inform our neighborhoods, our local neighborhoods this weekend. And I would like to show you how I think we could do it. Let me just dig out a document that I have made. Yes, okay. So let me share my screen and show you a document that I have prepared. And I ask you to, if you like the idea, to imitate me. So the document that I've prepared is this one. It's a PDF document, and it's an image that I have tweeted out the last a few days ago. And what I have done is I have taken a Google map screenshot of my area. I have highlighted my home. That's this little red dot here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this image. I hope you can see it. So I entitled this document Direct Energy Weapon Attacks on Me and the Neighborhood. And I've also stated my private address. So you do not need to publish your private address for this, but you can inform your neighborhood also without publishing your precise address. But I've basically made this this thing. I've written up when the attacks started, in my case, January 2016, and they have been continuous for over 2 years now. And I have drawn a circle here that represents the danger zone. So all the homes in this circuit, first of all, this is what I call the active shooter zone. So every house in this circle can actually shoot at my home directly. There's a direct line of sight onto these properties. So I don't know where the attackers are located. They could be in any of these homes. But in reverse, when something bounces off the walls, these people get hit first. Okay, so the people in these homes are in the danger zone, basically. And then there's a broader danger zone, which is a bit lopsided because this part here is on a hill. So if a car is parked in front of my home and shoots up against the wall, it goes up the hill in this direction and can hit pretty much any building here in this area. So I have sketched out the rough area, and if you look at it, I don't know how many homes are in this circuit, but maybe something like 100, 150 homes. Now, it's very easy to make, to print off 150 pages and just distribute it here, put it into the post boxes. But I wanted to make this diagram here. I know that I've got attackers to the north, to the east, the west, and the south. So four perpetrators are in this area for sure, but I don't know where they are. But I don't need to know. I just need to inform the area, and I invite them to join my campaign to basically get the intelligence agencies to stop shooting in this area, because everybody within the yellow circle is in danger. And the other thing you might like to point out to your neighbors is that if you have an attacker somewhere in the red zone, they might be attacking you, but they also might be shooting outwards at somebody else. So that's another reason why there's this yellow zone around the active shooter zone, So everybody in this yellow zone has potentially a claim against the government should they develop cancer. And then it's down to picking out which exact house it is their direct line of sight, etc. But if you start informing this larger neighborhood, people might be interested to hear what's going on as soon as they discover that their health might also be affected, or the health of their children if they're playing in the area.
What if, let me ask this question, what if somebody distributed flyers saying the federal government or whatever's, in whatever country will be conducting or is conducting electromagnetic field testing in your area? Okay, and name some agencies saying if you feel that in the next 2 or 3 years that you have developed cancer as a result of this testing, please let us know. Your cooperation is much appreciated.
Brilliant, Karen. I like it. I like it because that's exactly what it is. It is. It's war training.
Yeah. So, put out a flyer like that and see if people don't get a little upset, maybe with the fusion center near them or a Air Force or Army post near them, Department of Justice, whoever.
Exactly. This is brilliant. This is fantastic. So, yes, exactly. So what I would like to ask everybody who likes the idea to do is to join the campaign. I'll do a write-up. And let's think of, what sort of letters we could be writing to our neighbors, So I think this is a brilliant idea, Karen, because, yes, you can phrase it like that. So attention. This, the highlighted zone is being used for active military drills. active directed energy weapons are in active use in this zone. Should you develop cancer or any sort of organ damage or any sort of health problems in the foreseeable future, please let us know. And then put the address, This is fantastic. I love it. I love it. So that is certainly a way to do it. If you want to stay anonymous, you just forward all the traffic to to these agencies.
Yeah, director of NSA,
exactly.
Head of CIA, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Secretary of the Army, whoever.
Exactly. This is brilliant. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the way to do it. I just on the technical notes, if you want to highlight the area, of course, you have. Sorry, let me just share my screen again to show you how you can do stuff like that. You do not have to highlight your home, and you also don't have to put your home into the very center of the circle. You can push the circle up and down and left and right, or just make a yellow zone and leave out the red zone if you want to stay anonymous, and distribute these leaflets. I actually, in my particular case, I would like to point out that my home is this red circle here, and the police station that I reported the attacks to, I think at least a dozen times, is over here. So it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses down. And they refuse to act. Yeah, that speaks for itself. But one of the things that you can do is how to make, how do you make these diagrams? You can use OpenOffice, specifically OpenOffice Draw. And there you can just take a screenshot. Taking a screenshot of Google Maps is easily done on Windows. I think you press Control and Print on your keyboard. That takes a screenshot. And then if you paste it into a program like Paint, for example, you just paste it in here with Control V. And then you can save up here. You can save the image. Once you've saved the image, you can open OpenOffice Draw and drag and drop this image into it, and then you can use the Control Draw to make a circle and arrows and highlight them and so on. And then you can put in text, and then you've got your flyer. So it's very, very easy to do. And if I've got the time, I will make a video tomorrow demonstrating how to do this. And tomorrow I wanted to draw up the letters that I will be sending out in German and in English. So you're welcome to copy them. And you're welcome to, write your own letters. But I invite everybody to join this campaign. And now in 2018, I think we have put out enough evidence that no one can deny the existence of these weapons. And my experience is also that no one denies the existence and the use of these weapons. If you talk to normal people everywhere, they are so very well informed by now that I have never had any problems getting my message across. I mean, so far, no one has accused me of delusions to this day, So I think this tactic of the intelligence agencies is now pretty much dead for good. This whole delusions and schizophrenia, whatever they used to say. And now we're moving to actually shut the system down. So I think these are the campaigns. So to summarize, please sign Karen's petition and Millicent's petition. You can find this below this video on YouTube in the description. Then there will, we are launching the campaign for Millicent to write letters for her. And I will put the link again under the in the description here. There will be a campaign for Siegfried Tomys to actually write to the court and ask what on earth is going on. And the campaign for Siegfried Tomys, even if you don't live in Switzerland, it is super important that you contribute and also write an email or write a letter specifically because you're not in Switzerland. And as soon as a court sees that there's posts from around the world, they suddenly discover that the entire world is watching and they're aware of the case. So it is massively powerful if you write from abroad. And so with the actual court details, I am digging them up right now. They should be there. I will tweet out, when this is ready. But it will be again in the show notes under the YouTube video. So if you check this YouTube video, maybe in a few hours, the link will be there for Siegfried Tomys. and also this poster for the decency campaign in the UK. And these are the flyers for the upcoming protest on the 7th of March, starting in front of Parliament. So that will also be up on my website, and you can print it off. So and then the sixth campaign is this campaign to inform the neighborhood. And I know that a lot of people are, how to put it, they are very intimidated. They have been intimidated by the intelligence agencies into keeping quiet, and for good reasons. A lot of people are afraid of their neighbors because the neighbors are part of the abusers. However, I guarantee you that once you start informing entire neighborhoods, it's not true that the intelligence agencies own the entire neighborhood, you know, unless, of course, you live in Pullach near the BND, where I think it's all just intelligence agents. But, you know what I mean. In every normal area, the intelligence agencies might have hired or rented a lot of flats, but they do not own the neighborhood. And most people are rather angry about the sort of stuff that they are doing. So you can, you know, I'm pretty sure that you can recruit their help. Wow, I've just seen that Ramola has joined us. Hi, Ramola. You're back home.
I'm back home. Yeah, I just dropped the girls off at the skating rink, and looks like they're fine. So I'll, you know, go back and pick them up shortly. But my phone, of course, was drained halfway, so that's why I dropped out. Yeah. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead with what you were talking about. I listened, you know, to most of it, and then got cut off. So
basically, we've announced the campaigns.
Echo.
Oh yes, I've just sorry, I muted you, Ramola. I'm trying to cut out the echo. So yes, so there's 6 campaigns in total, so 2 petitions and 4 campaigns that we announced today. So I call today's Techno Forum the campaigns episode, because we're launching into campaigns, and there are many more to come. And yes, there's also the affidavit release, and I have decided next week is the 50th episode of Techno Crime Fighters Forum, and I will be launching the affidavit campaign then, you know, as a big celebration, as a big start, and also because I need more time. And one announcement I would like to make is I have been severely tortured on Tuesday. And it has been so serious. I mean, I've never had this before, that these people have given me, via the head chips on my head, and especially on my forehead, a headache that they then switched around. But I was in so much agony that I basically was crawling, you know, from one place to the next the entire day, and I was close to throwing up. This is a level of brutality I have not experienced before. I've also been brutally shot up, but it has made me just even more determined. So every single time that I get attacked, I'm just going to step up the fight. So next week, I would like to make a couple of announcements, stuff that I've never made public about my targeting on the 50th episode. And I would like to identify some perpetrators. If I die, you know, between now and next week, my colleagues know who my main perpetrators are. I asked them to then kick off a big fuss. But basically, I was very impressed by those people who, you know, went on Ramola's show and talked about their attackers openly, if they were high profile. I think that, you know, we need to lead the way in identifying individuals, no matter how high they are placed. And I think I should follow suit and do that as well. And also my particular case, I think, is, you know, it's related to other cases, because I think the people who are abusing me and are involved in my abuse are abusing many other people as well. And I think it will be a bit like the pedophile investigations. As soon as one person has the courage to come forward, the floodgates open, and suddenly, you know, dozens of victims, typically the victims of the same perpetrator, start pouring in. But anyway, this is also, you know, a warning shot to the intelligence agencies. Literally every single time they go against us, we have to escalate. And I basically ask all the victims to do the same. Do not be cowed. It doesn't matter how shit they make you feel, how many assassination attempts and how much mutilation they put you through. We have to escalate every single time. And the only way to stop psychopaths is to be more psychopathic than them in certain respects. I will not be advocating violence, but I will be advocating, total administrative brutality of the highest psychopathic level possible. So, and the good thing is they showed us how to do it, hey? So we now really have a very good understanding what administrative terrorism looks like, and I intend to use it, against them until the day I die. That's basically mine.
Well,
Catherine,
let me make.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm going to jump in just for a second. Let me make a suggestion in regard to FISA abuse, surveillance abuse, the executive order 13818 that says anybody who is suspected of or caught human trafficking will have their assets frozen and seized. Well, what if people started writing into the White House email to the president saying, under executive order 13818, I am reporting so-and-so as a human trafficker who is utilizing directed energy weapons or chips or whatever to torture me. Just start giving them names,
Brilliant.
addresses, etc. Just put it out there, and then you can say, for official use only, FOUO. That's something that the agencies use, FOUO, for official use only. You're not smearing them. You're bringing them to the attention of the proper authorities.
Fantastic.
FOUO. All right. I think that
sounds like a swear word. FOUO too,
FOUO. Mr. President.
For official use only, yes.
And I have a few names to send your way, and it's going to start from this neighborhood. Start with the neighborhood and go outward to the local police station, to the local city council, the local mayor, and the local fusion center, and name them, because we know the fusion centers are doing this. The fusion centers are doing this. And who comprises the fusion centers? Think about that. It's a whole bunch of agencies. It's a whole bunch of them. There's the DHS.
The fusion centers themselves are private entities. And who is subject to the executive order 13818? Private entities, local authorities, your neighbors.
The DHS is a private corporation, I understand, right?
Private for profit.
Corporation.
For profit. So there you go. We've got a human trafficking operation right there. A private corporation engaging in human trafficking. The DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Let's spell that out for everybody to hear.
Masquerading as a federal agency.
Isn't
masquerading
also a private for-profit agency by now?
Who?
We have to check, because people have pointed out that entire countries have been converted into corporations,
Well, that's true. I mean, they are. I mean, the U.S. corporation. We're dealing with the U.S. So basically, the U.S. corporation, CEO'd by Mr. Trump, has put out an executive order to say that anybody under the jurisdiction of the U.S. corporation can then report other people who are engaging in human trafficking. So it's literally, we are going to be reporting one corporation to another.
Yeah.
Well, this is legalistic sleight of hand, so we'll see if that gets corrected at some point.
And I think at some point we just need to get the cases pushed into the system. And then one can always say, what has been the way the cases have been treated is unlawful or whatever, unconstitutional. And there's a lot of hoo-ha about, is the constitutional enforcer, is the US under, whatever is called war powers. But that doesn't matter, because, this will be sorted out in due course. And under no scenario is it okay to basically torture and murder Americans.
No, it's not. And I think that is the main thing we've got to come back to, Catherine. The main thing that we've got to get across to people is this is running under cover of surveillance. So under surveillance, the Justice Department and the FBI have unleashed this program on the populace. I'm talking about the US, of course. And I understand it's a similar sort of situation elsewhere, but I'm just using these names because they're the names we've got in the American setup over here. We've got the Justice Department, and we've got the FBI, and we've got the Department of Homeland Security. And they've unleashed this surveillance program whereby they're issuing these national security letters. They're putting people under surveillance. They're telling everybody they're investigating people. They're running around getting FISA warrants, which apparently are like, you just like pluck them like crab apples off the trees.
The FISA judge says, "Why would you like this warrant?" And they say, "Because." Oh, here it is.
There it is. Oh, who did you want that again? Oh, somebody who spoke out at a school board meeting? All right, let's go after her. Yeah. Let's get all the neighborhood Nazis from the FBI and unleash them on this woman, who dared to speak out about something or the other at a school board meeting. So that's what's going on in the country. So, and having done that, and this is the thing that many people don't know, thanks to mainstream media, is that after surveillance is unleashed on somebody, then the electromagnetic onslaught begins. And what happens is these weapons that are being trained on people are being trained on them night and day, 24/7, being used to sleep deprive them, wake them up in the middle of the night, 3 or 4 times a day by burning their spine or vibrating their beds or sending the, right wake-up frequencies to their brains, because we're talking about neuro weapons here, using frequencies. And then having woken them up, not letting them go back to sleep, hitting them constantly. And see, this is something that people can't wrap their heads around. People are being hit constantly with two ways of weapons. One is the directed energy weapons, the blasts in the face, the pulsed microwaves to the head, etc., etc. The activation of the implants, because people are being covertly implanted. And then there is the neuro weapons. And there's, there are people who are being hit with voice to skull technologies that are abusing them nonstop. The last couple of weeks, Catherine, you just said that you were hit so badly the last week, right? And I just wanted to report that I have been getting information from various people telling me the most horrendous things about how they are being hit. The last few weeks has seen an escalation in the way those who are targeted are being hit. One person reported to me that his body was being pulsed with electric shocks to such a great extent he was thrown across the bed. Okay. One person reported to me that her ears were vibrated extremely. She was kept from sleeping the entire night, sleep deprived the entire night, and the V2K was excessively abusive, and she didn't know how long she could take it. Okay, and then there's someone else who told me that what he's experiencing is constant neural abuse, which is forced speech and forced thought injection. So this is a very, very fine tuning of this neurotechnology that I want to excavate a little and publish more about, because what apparently is happening is, first, there's thought injection, forced thought injection. And, we are talking about pornographic, ghastly, ridiculous, criminal kind of thought patterns and behaviors that are being injected in. And then you have the thought monitoring. So you've got the Justice Department and the CIA working hand in hand, apparently. So one is pumping in ghastly thoughts, and the other is collecting the ghastly thoughts. So this is, this is enforced telepathic monitoring, enforced mental monitoring. Now, I saw a tweet recently from Julian Assange. He was, of course, we've all been on Twitter lately, and we've kind of seen some of these tweets going back and forth. I think Chris Burden or somebody had retweeted this one tweet from Julian Assange, and one of the things he'd said, it was in reference to the Snowden documents and how they're not really being published. But at the very end of his tweet, he said, we have a few years to wait until there's enforced telepathic monitoring. Now, I want to find out if this tweet is real. Did it really originate from Julian Assange, or did somebody create it and put a graphic up there? I don't know. We'll have to investigate that. But enforced telepathic monitoring, I think many of us know, is already going on.
Right. And this fits right into the earlier concept of pre-crime, using certain things to predict if somebody's going to commit a crime. Well, if you harass them 24/7, they just might. And then you go, oh, we told you so. And yet maybe you were doing V2K and other things to them for 5 years, 24/7. And then you say, you know, they obviously had criminal tendencies. This nun was hiding a terrible secret. You know, give me a break. You know, when you poke at somebody, they're going to poke back. You know?
The poking, my goodness, you know, I relayed to Catherine this last week what I had been experiencing on the roads. So I'm experiencing massive COINTELPRO on the roads, extreme. And this is one of the reasons why when I was driving just now, I held up the cell phone. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was trying to show you guys the traffic as I was driving. And, you know, they did have setups. You know, they had some water drain repair work set up. So over here in Massachusetts, whenever there's any construction being done on the roads, they have a cop, you know, standing there. So so that's what I was seeing as I was driving up Harvard Street and getting on West Quantum Street. There was this major construction going on, and this police guy over there. And then when I drove right through Milton, because the skating rink is in Milton, just before Milton Academy, which by the way is a very la-di-da private school, highly expensive to go to. It's the place, I think, where George Bush went, or George the Older Bush. George the Older Bush, by the way, was born in Milton, Massachusetts. And T.S. Eliot, I know, went to Milton Academy. So Milton Academy is almost as expensive to go to as Harvard, the university. Okay, so think about that. So wow. I'm driving through, and so right at that intersection as I'm crossing, getting close to Milton Academy, I think there were like a couple police cars. Did you see those? The Milton police buzzing past me and parked over there and looking all officious. I don't know what they were doing, but this is very frequent on my drives. I see all sorts of, you know, police cars and police setups here, there, and everywhere. But this was not as bad. The COINTELPRO today was not as bad. I have been getting cars just slamming out of side roads, very hazardous driving, speeding past me. And as I'm pulling up to take a turn, cars simply zipping around the corner and almost hitting me, you know, like not even trying to take a proper, you know, right turn into the road, but almost hitting me, like at an angle, coming in and almost hitting me. And I have been hit with this for the past few days. Intensively. And there was one day, and of course, I'm just like the average mom, you know, I'm taking my daughter somewhere, I'm in a rush, I'm driving a little fast, and literally I'm bombarded on all sides with this kind of COINTELPRO behavior. Cars slamming out of corners, people just suddenly jaywalking across my car, sudden cutoffs with other cars and SUVs. This has been happening quite a bit. And then I come close to the store where I'm going to pick up something so that my daughter can go to her science project with her friend with this thing, etc. And as I get to the corner, a woman starts walking across. And then an SUV comes speeding. So guess what? I decided I'm just going to take this turn anyway. And but I'm going to do it quick. So before, you know, they get to the middle of the road. So I start turning and I'm doing it. The SUV comes racing up and almost hits me. Pauses. I pause. He's paused, so I take off. But here's what happened. I go to the parking lot. I get out of the car with my daughter. This guy pulls in behind me, gets out of his car, and he's screaming his head off. Now, clearly, he was indeed speeding, and we did have a moment where we might have had a collision. We both paused, okay? We avoided that collision. But he took off yelling at me about my driving, what an effing idiot I am, how I shouldn't be on the roads, etc., etc. And, you know, I was so mad, but I did not want to engage. Because I didn't want to I didn't know how to explain to this guy, look, you're like the 15th guy who's done this to me this morning. You know, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to get into a huge tizzy if I even open my mouth. So I just held my head high, took my daughter and walked into the store. And he yelled the entire way. And there were 5 or 6 people standing at the store, you know, with their cell phones out, recording this, that, and the other. So the thought crossed my mind, was I kind of being set up, you know, for something? Were they provoking me so that then I start screaming and then that's recorded and then it's passed around to the Justice Department and everyone says, look, violent extremists, look at her behavior, you know? And then, okay, added surveillance. You see, they're calling this surveillance, but what it really is torture. And
provocation.
It's provocation. It's extreme provocation. So, and I think that's what a lot of us are experiencing. Those of us who have been targeted by this criminal surveillance state with these criminal intelligence agencies, these criminal fusion centers, we are being extremely provoked with deliberate intent. So what they are doing really is they're engaging in public endangerment. If they are provoking people on the roads, that's not public safety. That is public endangerment.
Right, right. Oh, NSA did the same thing to me. So I know what that is. It's choreographed aggressive driving attacks is what I call it.
Yeah, and because this is happening, and many of us, we all, we find different ways of dealing with it. You start getting, you need some kind of spiritual anchor, and many of us try to be Christ-like or Buddha-like or whatever. We're trying hard to, and drive defensively, etc. But there's always that one occasion when something happens and pushes you over the edge and you get really annoyed, rightfully annoyed, because, these people are doing this to you all the time. So I think this is something that needs to be publicized. We need to publicize that the fusion centers who are running these neighborhood watch programs and citizen watch programs are actually inciting dangerous scenarios on the roadways. This is a huge issue. I think we need to make it an issue, and we need to start publishing on it, as I certainly intend to do. So if anybody wants to send me your story, send me, an incident or an anecdote, I'm going to write an article about this and I'm going to publish this because I want to call these fusion centers out. I want to call all these neighborhood watch programs out. They are not doing anything good for the country or for the populace or for neighborhoods or for communities. They are destroying us.
Yes, and I will say they don't care who else they wipe out in their pursuit to destroy you. I mean, I had to go to an emergency room in Florida, in Tallahassee, Florida, and I realized, and I was not surprised, I realized I was being hit by a mobile directed energy weapon as I sat in the emergency room waiting room, and I could tell from which direction it was coming. It was coming from the parking lot, and they were firing through a woman with a newborn baby sitting right across me. There's no way the two of them were not getting hit. They don't care, people. Your fusion centers, your InfraGard will harm you just as much as they will harm us in the pursuit of destroying us for the insurance money that they've taken out on us. These are not heroes. These are not patriots. These are idiots. So if they kill you in the pursuit of harming us, they don't care. So get that through your heads. InfraGard is a treacherous and treasonous organization, and they should be taken out and shot or put in a penal colony for the rest of their lives.
I agree. I very much agree. And also, we have to say every single time they start bringing up pre-crime, we have to remind them that they can't even catch criminals post-crime. So, before they start with the pre-crime, I want them to arrest all the bankers that have asset stripped the US and Europe and other parts of the world. I want them to, actually arrest all the criminals that are using directed energy weapons. And once they have proven that post-crime, we maybe in 50 years' time can start thinking about pre-crime. But I think as we analyze the situation today, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I've got an announcement to make that I've just spotted. Today on Techno Forum, to my knowledge, maybe it happened before, but for the first time, we have more than 100 viewers watching us live. So I'm just seeing this little, we've got 103 viewers right now, 104. So it's very, very encouraging. I haven't been, running the show before, so I can't see the view numbers, but I've never seen so many viewers live at the same time. I'm also mildly impressed by, Hangouts, that it can handle the volume, but it's very, very nice. So I think over the past year, we have really managed to build up an audience, and we'll just continue the work. But I think what's very important for us to understand going forward is that all this talk about pre-crime and about finding criminals, it is one big ruse. It is a big ruse, and it's pathological lying by psychopaths. And the truth is that behind every Western government, and certainly behind every Western intelligence agency, is one big organized crime cartel. It is pushing through and has for decades, if not centuries, pushed through its own asset stripping and asset procurement programs. And this is what it's about, because in the context of law enforcement and even in the context of fighting terrorism or doing, national security focused intelligence work, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. So if these people were doing their job, even to 5 or 10%, the world would look different. But the truth is that none of them are. None of the police services in the US or in Europe are actually fighting organized crime. I rather suspect they help to organize it. And certainly the intelligence agencies seem to be massively involved in running the pedophile rings, drug running, distributing drugs in the country, distributing weapons, distributing directed energy weapons, and training up death squads and training up assassins and making Manchurian candidates. I think that is the truth. And in this, under this view, what we have to realize is that over the last couple of decades, this organized crime cartel got itself access to all of our medical records, all of our bank details. It got access to absolutely every single digital record. It has active access to all of our computers. For example, in Germany, they've now passed what's called the state Trojan. So police services and the intelligence agencies are officially allowed to place a Trojan on any computer in Germany, or anywhere in the world as far as I know, but certainly in Germany. And they are allowed to snoop around. Now, no normal law enforcement agency needs that, by the way, because our technological methods that we have are already good enough to catch criminals without that. The only case where you would want that with such sweeping powers is if you were a criminal organization. Then it's perfect. Then it's really basically a blanco check to make as much money as you possibly can. And this is, I think, what they are doing. And they have now not just access to all of the listed above, but they also have direct access to our bodies. And I think Millicent is right. The campaign to implant people has started probably in the 70s, but has been officially sanctioned in the US apparently in the mid-80s. And since the mid-80s, according to Millicent, Ronald Reagan signed a secretive executive order which allows every American to be chipped at birth. And I'm still tracking down the reference which she sent me already, but I have to order the book where this is mentioned. And I think what we are now finding pretty much tallies with that. So if you were born in the US after 86 or 87, you were most likely chipped at birth. Now that's something to take in, And I think that American colonies, for example, Germany, which seems to be still de facto under occupation, certainly under occupation by the American and British intelligence agencies, according to the former head of Austrian intelligence himself. I think such colonies also had pretty much the same thing done to them. So anybody born in Germany, for example, after 86, 87, or even maybe before, was probably chipped at birth, I would think. This is, I think, the hypothesis we have to work with. And certainly the number of people who I find with chips is, pretty much hints in that direction. So, when they come with these things that they want the state Trojan, when they want mass data collection, and when they want access to our bank accounts, we always have to think, hang on, is it perhaps the case that a huge organized crime cartel just wants to finish us off, basically,
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to investigate further, Catherine. This whole notion of, is there really an executive order that actually stated that, Americans can be chipped at birth? So that's something to investigate. And then the other thing is, I think at this point we have an understanding that chips are being used through, introduced through different delivery systems, such as, for instance, vaccines. So once again, we kind of need to establish definitively that this is indeed the case, and we're not just putting information out there that's out of a speculation or somebody's imagination. We kind of need to hunt these sources down a little bit and try to find what they are, where this information is coming from.
So by the way, Karen, you came back, but you're now at the right angle.
I know. I don't know how to fix this. I'm so sorry.
I don't know how to fix it.
Oh, there you go. There you are. You do know. No, wait, you were right side up for a minute.
I'll just lie down. I'll just lie down.
There you go.
It strangely works, actually. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to repair this. I have to be honest. But
I don't know.
this particular reference to the secretive order by Ronald Reagan, Millicent says it was called the and note this, the Emigration Act of 1987, right? And 1986. But
brilliant. We can check that out. We can look that up. Yeah.
She named the actual precise book where the author has investigated this and looked this up. And, I had to order it from the US, and I didn't actually get around to ordering this book. But this author makes a reference to the emigration. And note it's not immigration, it's emigration. Basically, it's letting Americans, in case they flee to other countries, we can still hunt them down, sort of thing. You know? So for one,
as property.
It's not about chipping the Mexicans coming in, it's about chipping the Americans in case they want to go. You know, take that. Yeah. But so what it was is that I think there is an official Immigration Act from 1986 to 1987, and this is a secret part to it that was classified for some time or something like that. So
yesterday I was reading a little bit about the different ways in which they are using sensor and tracking technology now for clandestine tracking, tagging, and locating. And they've got a lot of nanotech now that they are using. And there was something called they're using things like fluorescent sensors and bioreactive material. There's something called a bioreactive taggant, which they are putting on people's arms, you know, and it's like a tiny little cluster of nano that's sort of inserted in people's arms. And lately, I've been battling what I think are nanotech infections on my body, you know, on my neck. And as you can see, I think I've shown this to some people before. I'd like to make this public, actually. So you see those white spots over there. These spots occurred on my neck after a weird infestation, weird hives that I received, an extreme radiation burn that I showed people and that I am going to be using in my court case. And this, in tandem with microwave pulses being directed at my neck, made the whole area flare up and swell up. And then I treated it holistically with various things. And I can tell people, if this ever happens to you, try lavender essential oil, try aloe vera, try flaxseed oil. These things work. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of things you can take internally as well. Take turmeric, take neem, things like that. They're powerful herbal things to kind of stop this kind of infestation and kind of taking over. So I literally wondered if what was happening to me was the same thing that Melanie has reported, you know, nanotech that self-assembled at her throat. Because when this initially happened, there were tiny little black dots that kept coming off when I had the essential oils and a tissue. Tiny black dots coming off out of my neck. Okay. And after this left, then I was left with this sort of melanine challenged area over here, a couple of areas. So isn't that interesting? Oh, do I mean melatonin? Yeah, the thing that gives you color. The color has been removed. So one of the things I was checking out was this nanotech, and so there are these bioreactive taggants that the Army is using currently, and they're probably testing out, on you and me, you know, something that's put on the arm, and it just registers as a kind of a little lump on the arm, and then it's used from a distance. So they're doing all sorts of things to clandestinely tag and locate and track people. So they've moved on, I'm sure, for microchips, but as we know, they still are using microchips. The microchips have just gotten more and more micro. So they're still using different delivery methods, different tech, but they seem to be obsessed with tracking people.
That's incredible. Yes, I think again, this is hard to understand, because why the hell do they need to track us, you know, going to the shops and so on? So I think the actual explanation for this has nothing to do with surveillance or law enforcement. I think what it actually is war preparations. So Karen Huder says, and many other people have said before, and I'm of the opinion that they're preparing a big staged World War III or World War IV, depending on how you count, where they try to basically depopulate, commit mass genocide. And I think they want to test this stuff. Can they spray it at us, say, when we are going through, I don't know, a door, we get sprayed, and then later on we get hunted down by drones or some nonsense like that. I think this is what's in the pipeline.
That's right. That's the CCTL program, to tag and track and then hunt down with drones. I mean, the army says it in their own information.
Oh my goodness. Gosh, yeah. Okay, then let's put this out there as quickly as possible, put out the link. Because I think this is why we need to get the heads of the military into court for high treason as quickly as possible. Because these people, I seriously believe that these people are mentally deranged. I think they have been groomed by the cartel to be degenerates, to be psychopathic and other degenerates. They are seriously sick in the head. They certainly have control files, otherwise they wouldn't be there. And they are to be used to unleash the militaries of the world onto their own populations. And I think only under this sort of view can we explain the seriously sick spending in the military realm. And only under this can we explain why the population is being attacked in every single state.
And the seriously sick assault on those who are targeted, because it is sick, it is depraved, it is sick, it is degenerate. What they are doing to those who are targeted is pretty sick. It's perverted, And I want to back you up on that, Catherine. I want to echo what you just said. It's the heads of the militaries, it's the heads of the intelligence agencies that we should call to book for what's been unleashed on the population, because it's already been unleashed on the population.
Exactly, and it was their job to fight terrorism. It was never their job to stage terrorism and then engage in some mock, cleanup operations or start mock wars after that. But it is actually de facto their job to fight terrorism, and they're not fighting terrorism. So at this point, they certainly need to be removed. And when we investigate how exactly they not just haven't fought terrorism, but actually funded and generated it, I think that's the point where they should be, basically charged with high treason and, as Karen said, shot after a very orderly criminal tribunal, or military tribunal. I am totally in favor of shooting people after a criminal investigation. By the way, last time, I think you, Ramula, mentioned somebody attacked NSA or was trying to blow it up or drove a van into the front. I don't know what they did. And then I think this came after I made a rather militant, announcement that we need to get these people. And then I was almost accused of inciting some, poor stuff. By the way, I just would like to say I'm pretty convinced that this was also staged by NSA. I'm pretty convinced that every every intelligence agency has a security parameter, an invisible security parameter that's at least half a kilometer around the building, if not several kilometers. So I don't think a single van, especially with their mind reading tech, would come near to NSA.
Seriously, mind reading and cameras. Come on, the NSA, who's supposed to be the maestros of surveillance. You'd think they don't have cameras in their parking lots.
Exactly. Well, I think it's pretty clear that they staged it themselves. And I'm sorry, I would love to attend the court case where I'm basically charged with inciting, the heads of Intel into violence against their own people. It's like, oh, no, Dr. Catherine Horton told us to attack the NSA. It's her fault. Okay.
This was the second similar incident where two men dressed as women were in an SUV that tried to get through a checkpoint. I'm not sure what's going on there, but considering the number of, let's say, sexual deviants at NSA, the fact that you think that NSA staged it, that's possible. That's possible. May have been leaving a signature that we don't understand to other deviants. But I wanted to inject very quickly. NSA went to the trouble of removing two things from their core values, and that is openness and honesty. So I now call them NSA's rotten to the core values.
That's brilliant. Karen, it's perhaps they're trying to get closer and closer to the CIA, or the Mossad. So they took out openness and honesty. I mean, what is the Mossad's motto? Something like "By deception shall we rule," or something like that.
Something uber creepy. I think it's worth actually Googling that, because I remember reading it thinking, oh my God, hang on. Help me Google Mossad's motto.
I think the CIA has a deceptive motto. I think they have something like, veritas, or we're all about truth, and, we can all get a good laugh out of that.
Okay, anybody who speaks Latin, we need to tell these agencies maybe they should change their mottos to "We eat our own." Maybe that's what they need to have it as their mottos, because that's what they're doing. They're cannibalizing their own people who they're supposed to protect, It's just, it's disgusting. It's beyond betrayal. It really is treason.
It's almost like we'll pretend to protect you, but we are seriously predating.
Yeah.
Something like
how about as a motto, "Evil bastards are us"?
Yeah, there we go.
Us font.
Yeah.
By the way, I've just noticed that we've got now 111 people watching us live. So I think as soon as we start really kneeling into the intelligence agencies, our viewership just rockets.
I bet it's more than 111. Google's just telling us it's 111. It's probably 111,000.
Yeah, I think so. Oh gosh, but this is just so sick, and I think we should really publish that and put it in our court cases, because as soon as an organization removes these sort of values from their I think that can be put into a court case and say, well, what was it? It was honesty and openness that they removed. So
I think so.
Bunch of secretive lying bastards. Isn't that what follows?
Yeah.
You see, and this is the other thing, that I'd like to point out. Secrecy is made much of in this country. Oh, secrecy is so important for national security. We've got to have these top secret documents. We've got to have these very secret methodologies of our, clandestine espionage thingies, et cetera, et cetera. But via secrecy, they are now assaulting people. So we're at a point where we have to turn this whole thing inside out. We have to shine a light on what secrecy has brought us to. And we have to question this whole notion of why are things being classified? Why are things being kept secret? So this whole notion of classification and secrecy, I think, needs to be openly challenged, openly questioned, openly ripped open, That shouldn't exist. So what's happening now is through secrecy, they have gained abuse of power, and they are using abuse of power on the citizenry. So unless the citizenry make a racket, it's not going to stop.
Yeah, this is sedition through secrecy.
Correct. It is sedition. It is treason of the highest order, because it's treason against the people. They're supposed to protect the people. Well, at this point in time, I think we understand they're not protecting the people. They are protecting these supra multinational corporations that are developing the weaponry that they are now using against the populace, and that are developing the weaponry that are running this war machine in the whole world. So they're protecting the war machine.
Exactly. And they feel like we are assets, or they're farming us. Basically they're deciding, we can use this population for this, and we need that population for that, and we'll take a few out and do this with them. As if we're property. Exactly. I mean, there's been this major legalistic sleight of hand, including the idiotic Supreme Court decision that corporations were people too. I mean, that was a red flag. And you can see how that's led to all of these corporations saying, well, we have as much, if not more, rights than human beings. So that was sabotage right there. I mean, that was leading to the legalistic sleight of hand that turned us into property, But if you read the laws outright and you're honest about it, it can't have happened. But it did, because you had so many judges and lawyers who went along with the sleight of hand. Oh yeah, we'll say this, and then we'll interpret it as this, and then we'll get to do what we want to do. And people won't catch on that they've now become not citizens, but now they're property. And then it'll be too late, because we're going to say property has no right to protest what's being done to them. It just was off the cliff. you know, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
That is so interesting, actually, about this Supreme Court decision, because one of the first things I would check is was Justice Scalia on the bench at the time? Because Justice Scalia, I think, I mean, you know, we have to really put it down, but Justice Scalia died at a farm of one guy who was pretty much involved in this organized crime racket. And this is a farm that seems to have been involved in the ritual, torture of children. It was a satanic farm. And I think, what was blown open is that, Scalia was a pedophile. He had a control file on himself, right? And then he was pretty much, it looks like, murdered, and then his murder was covered up. So Scalia was involved in the deepest, shadiest things just by virtue of him being at this farm, of this guy. So what the hell was he doing there? And I think the more we dig into it, I personally would assume, based on what I've seen, that he was there to refresh his control file. I think he was there to most likely rape some children, I would say. But anyway, I think what we need to do is investigate the case of Scalia and then really look at all the judgments, because should he turn out to be a member of the cartel, an agent of this crime cartel, I think we have to also draw his judgments into question and ask, was he actually acting as an agent for the crime cartel? And then do the same thing with all the Supreme Court judges. Because in the UK, more and more people are coming forward and talking about the child abuse they suffered at the hands of senior MI5, MI6 agents, judges, and so on. And, I think we'll wake up to the fact, which is, I think, from the systems analysis point of view, pretty obvious, that this global organized crime cartel has been planting people in the judiciary for ages, and in the police and the intelligence agencies, specifically because they were criminals. So would it mean that the criminal, has basically acted for the cartel? And then if the answer is yes, can we call these sort of judgments into question,
Yeah, I think those are good questions, Catherine. I know there's something very shady about Scalia's death, etc., and all this whole cloud.
Well, I think he was murdered. And I'm not sure about smearing him. He was a conservative. He was an ultra-conservative, and he was in the way of, I think, what the cartel wanted to accomplish. Now, as far as some of the other Supreme Court justices, I think you're going to see them removed. I think there's yet more things to come out that will remove at least 3 of them. So we shall see.
Interesting. I just wanted to say, I just read this new article from John Whitehead about sex trafficking of children, of little girls, actually, of girls as young as 9 years old, that how this has become one of the biggest industries in America, and how 100 to 150,000 young girls are being sex trafficked every year. And it's become the 3rd most lucrative industry, involving the intelligence agencies, no doubt, after drugs and guns being trafficked. God, yeah. Can you believe that?
Wow,
as young as 9 years old.
Where was this? Where did this come out again? I just missed that bit.
Oh, it's online right now. You could just find it. It's John Whitehead, the Rutherford Institute.
The Rutherford Institute. Oh, wow. Yes, and I think this is exactly going to the core, because I think it's very uncomfortable to think that these public figures, especially in the judiciary, who many people have looked up to, and for good reason, it's very uncomfortable to even entertain the thought that they might have been involved in stuff like that. But as a systems analyst, I know for a fact that, this is exactly how the cartel has been working. And if you just run the analysis, you can't tell which judge might have been, but for sure, certain that some of the active judges and even Supreme Court judges must have been, simply because the Supreme Court is such a powerful position that the Supreme Court is one of the places that after the intelligence agencies and after the police, that the organized crime cartel would want to infiltrate.
Exactly.
And
that's
control.
True.
So, I think what exactly has been going on with Scalia is still under investigation. I was rather shocked. And maybe it was biased reporting. I don't know. But I remember the reporting that Alex Jones did about who this person was, who owned the ranch and what he was doing. I think he was involved in some shady stuff in Nicaragua. So I have to look up the details. And also that Scalia was a member of the Hubertus Hunting Club, which I really want to know what it
is. Yeah.
And there's lots of signaling, and I find it terrific. But in any case, what it means is always that we also have to have a very close look at all the Supreme Courts in every country. The UK, Germany, Switzerland, and who exactly these judges are and what they might have gotten up to. Because
I think that's a very important point, Catherine, because basically what we are learning is that the people in the judicial system who are there to sort of ensure the course of justice are really not doing anything of the sort, but they are extremely corrupt and they're all being controlled. They're either corrupt or they're being controlled. And because of that, the course of justice has been perverted, for all of us, for all of humanity, for the public at large. And because of that, corruption has become entrenched. Corruption and criminality has become entrenched. So we're looking at intelligence agencies, we're looking at militaries who are running large-scale operations that include corruption and criminality, that include drug running, gun running, and child and sex trafficking. So given the scenario, we have these people using weapons against the populace and running so-called surveillance operations against the populace. So what exactly are they surveilling? Who are they protecting? They are protecting their criminal operations, and they are targeting the people who represent in some way or form a kind of threat to the smooth running of those criminal operations, right? Which is how all three of us have been targeted, how Dr. Millicent Black has been targeted, and how everybody whom we know who's been targeted has been targeted. We are being targeted to take out the voices and noises that people of integrity will make against such entrenched criminality and corruption. And so that's sort of how they've pulled it off. To me, one of the biggest things that really enrages me is the weaponry that is being used on us and the ways in which this weaponry is being used on us. It is outrageous. It is scandalous. It is sick. It is perverted. These weapons are incredibly sophisticated weapons. They are remote human manipulation weapons. They assault the human body at a very intimate level, at the level of nerves, at the levels of blood cells, at the level of bone, joint, tissue, organ, neuron, synapse, at the level of thought, idea, mood, emotion. And because of that, they're extremely invasive weapons. And I think these weapons should be banned. I agree. Thank you. I think we need to work together, as a targeted populace, every single one of us, as a surveilled populace, as an educated populace. We need to work together to speak out and demand the banning of these weapons, because they do represent the end of humanity. What we are witnessing right now, what we are reporting right now, is the end of humanity, because it is barbaric to use such a weapon on another human being. But these barbarians in the intelligence agencies and the fusion centers are doing precisely that.
I would second that. I would say that they need to, some people say, well, they need to be banned except for in the use of war. I don't think these would get past the Geneva Convention because they're too cruel. They're too cruel and indiscriminate. So I would make them absolutely forbidden technology. And if you make one in your garage, then you're dragged out and you're never seen again because you're taken away and you're executed. Because this cannot be tolerated at all. Because there is no trusting any authority with these weapons, because they first came out and showed us that the first thing that they wanted to do with these weapons was terrorize innocent individuals. And these are the heads of the military, the heads of the intelligence community, police, law enforcement, FBI, Department of Justice, and other entities that deal with medical issues. The first thing they felt that they needed to do with these weapons was to terrorize people and use them as property, to use them as experiments, to use them as, just a fodder for their enjoyment. So this should be absolutely a totally forbidden technology, period. No person, no entity, no agency, no government. We as humanity cannot resist, with the evil that is in us, we cannot resist doing something to another person that we're almost guaranteed to never be caught and punished for. What they've done with these weapons, that they have drawn out that type of sick, subhuman individual in our society. So I would say take a very close look at InfraGard, Citizen on Patrol, all those people, because they have all but self-identified as hopelessly rabid sociopaths and predators. So that's what they've done. And I do think they should. Now, people may not agree that we need to execute several million people. Okay, I think we need to execute the people who have indeed been, that we can prove have betrayed their countries, betrayed humanity. I mean, this is a war against humanity, crimes against humanity. So those people who took those devices and implemented them in a secret, cowardly war against the population of the world, they need to be executed. There is no redeeming quality to them. Like I said, if you get down to InfraGard and other people like that, I mean, what they're doing is attempted murder. So I have no problem executing them. But there are a lot of people who don't want to go that far. So I say, let them be put in a penal colony. And that's it. You're never returning to society. So, I hope somebody can work out how to, you can't, I'm sorry, you cannot let these people go back into society and function. Oh, you spent 5 years trying to kill your neighbor or several neighbors with directed energy weapons. Slap on the wrist, go back to work. No, never, never. And I don't know, maybe we should brand them too. I mean, just to warn people, this is that type of person. This person is, given a chance, a monster, a cowardly monster. So, like I said, they've self-identified, and I'm going to take them at their word.
Absolutely. I really think we should, and we should put together all the the list of the perpetrators who we know to be involved, and they have to be brandmarked for life, really, certainly, because as you said, they have identified themselves to be monsters, self-identified. So yes, I think what we should do is we probably have to wrap up now. But I would like to encourage absolutely everybody to come forward, join this fight in 2018. I'm just going to briefly rattle down the. We have got 6 campaigns, or two petitions and 4 campaigns that we launched today. So please sign Karen's petition. The link is below the video. Millicent's petition. The link is again below the video. We've launched a campaign to save Dr. Millicent Black, who's being tortured as we speak. And Air Force veteran Randall Webster just doesn't let off. He is talking and abusing her with V2K nonstop, and also with directed energy weapon attacks on her. And we will do our absolute utmost to save Millicent. So the campaign is launched. On my website, you will find the contact list to contact. This is under Stop 007. Go to Support Our Fighters, and then to Millicent, and then I'll put a link on my website, a direct link soon. Then there's also the campaign to investigate what exactly happened in the court case of Siegfried Tomys, and then also finally the decency march of Jeff Godwin, and then finally the campaign to inform the neighbors. And tomorrow, if I've got the time, I'll put out a video of how to make your map and inform your neighbors if you're interested. So yes, so the final words from me are, please join our campaigns. This year is all about actions. We know what's going on, and now we have to hunt down these bastards, administratively speaking. So I'm passing it on to who wants to go next.
Oh, absolutely. And I just wanted to say, not just hunt them down. We need to make one heck of a public hoo-ha about this. And we need to let people know that this is happening, one. And two, these weapons, what they are capable of and what they're actually accomplishing and how they are being used by these absolutely perverted, sick degenerates in the intelligence agencies, in local law enforcement, and in the local fusion centers. And being trained to be used by the infraguard lunatics and stalkers, and how they're training up neighbors as well to use weapons like these on others. And every little bit of tracking contributes to this assault on those who are targeted. That's what people don't understand. But everybody who is pulled into this tracking, being told it's just tracking, is actually part of this weapon system, whereby somebody's human body is being manipulated, accessed, manipulated, assaulted, and savaged, brutally savaged. So I think that's the information that we need to get out. So I would actually like to encourage everybody out there who's listening, start becoming more active, start speaking out wherever it is, in whatever forum. I love the idea of doing flyers. We've talked a little bit about that. I know Catherine and Karen are working on some great flyers. So I'd like to put them all up on my website and encourage everybody, start taking flyers out, start blanketing your neighborhood. It's literally do or die at this point in time, literally. Humanity is being assaulted. We're all being assaulted. It's do or die. It's either the corrupt DHS or it's you and me. So I'm sorry, but I vote for humanity. And I vote for humanity against the corrupt criminals who are pretending to protect us, but in actuality, practicing depravity, torture, and savagery and brutality in all of us.
Exactly. I wanted to bring up something. I was talking to Paul Baird, and he made a very good point. He said people are getting bogged down trying to explain the existence of this technology to people. And he said, why don't you just explain the why they're doing, not how? Why are they doing it? And tell them about it being such a scam. It's a money-making scam. It's a population, depopulation scam. And he's right. We can get into, I mean, the United States government basically said, oh, we don't know how to prove who had the directed energy weapons or whatever it was in Cuba. We don't know how to prove it. Okay. Well, the United States government is saying it can't prove it. It can't prove where they came from, et cetera, et cetera. I bet they can, but they're saying that. So going past that and then having neighbors or people demand that we prove these exist or how they actually function, we can point to patents and let that, just say there are patents for these things, et cetera, and we can give them a good answer. But we can't give them probably a detailed answer as to how exactly they work. But the main question is not how. The main question is why. And it has to do with graft. It has to do with human trafficking. It has to do with money. It has to do with criminality. It has to do with sedition and treason. That's the why. So don't get bogged down in the technology. Mention it. Send people to, patent sites and things like that and say it does exist. But when you engage them, it's the why that truly is the reason to be concerned.
Absolutely. I think, that's a very, very good point. So, I think everybody should adopt a strategy, and now let's just go for it and say, this is happening. This is why it's happening. And this is why we have to shut it down straight away. So, thank you to both of you today. I would like to send out my well wishes to Millicent, who I'm pretty sure is listening now. We will do our utmost to help you, Millicent. And I'm sorry it has taken us so long, but, we are now launching the campaign for you. So our hearts are with you. And, we'll help you to the best of our ability. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And see you next week, next Thursday, for the 50th Jubilee edition of Techno Crime Fighters Forum. So bye for now.